Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? We've got Adam Caplan and Geoff Mosher here for you live in the flesh as we do our post-game podcast of Adam, a huge Eagles win. They win 31-13 over the Bills in Buffalo. A lot for us to get into. By the way, we want to say special thanks to Hunter Brody, my colleague at 97.3 ESPN, who's helping us produce this YouTube version. For those who are normal listeners, they'll actually get to see this live as soon as we put it out on social media, and they'll have to look at our ugly mugs. But before we get into this game, Adam, I think the first thing we have to do is take a big picture look at what just happened. The Eagles went into Buffalo, fought off the elements, fought off the quote-unquote turmoil that plagued them all week long, got a win that evens their record. They come home from this road trip, 1-2, not great, but on a win. It feels like this felt like the team was at a crossroads, and they were either going to go in a downward spiral or they were going to do what we've seen them do in the past and rally, and for at least this Sunday they rallied.
Geoff, when they were down 7-3 in the second quarter, it sure looked like to me that, this could be a problem. And then later on, they got some things going. They got the Goddard touchdown. This is 2 weeks in a row that he has scored. But the biggest play of the game was the Sanders run, the 65-yard touchdown run. But on that play, the key block, I love the formation, was a split backfield between Jordan Howard, who wound up being the fullback, if you could say that, and he had a key block on Matt Milano. He obliterated him. And Matt Milano, as we would see, is a weak side linebacker. It's been a good story for the Bills, but he's smaller. Ed Oliver was taken out of the game by the Eagles offensive line, and they did a number on him. They ran for well over 200 yards. You could say, that 65-yard run was a big part of it. It was, but they had several nice runs. Howard had some really good runs today. Boy, I'll tell you what, Jordan Howard, despite what one of my Bears sources told me, he's been really physical and he's patient, and then he hits it. He's got a little bit of a wiggle, and he did a really good job today. Yeah,
he really did. And, we'll get into some of the ins and outs, the playbook, the plays, but from a big picture standpoint, do you feel like the 5,000-pound monkey is off this team's back for a week?
For a week, maybe, Geoff. Now, they do play the Bears next Sunday. That team is reeling. They had an awful loss. But, yeah, they're going to have some confidence. But we've seen them win some games, like the Jets game. The next week, it didn't mean anything. So you have to be careful. But this game is on the road. They beat one of the best teams in the National Football League this season rather handily in the end. It didn't look like that in the first half. But they stayed with the run in the second half. It was kind of the opposite of the Packer game where they got off early with the run and then they kept going. Here where they in the first half, they actually threw it more than they ran it. But the win, though, Geoff, they tried a couple shot plays. The win was unbelievable. I texted people who were at the game. They said it was a factor the entire game. The rain was really not too bad. It did rain at one point. But it is hard to throw when it's extremely windy. I don't think it was ever under 25 miles an hour. And it's funny. I had a funny text exchange with someone who was at the game. I said, I think the wind gets 5 passes defense in this game. The Bills, Geoff, you may not have seen it. They had a shot play where it would have been a touchdown. The receiver ran a post and he beat the Eagles corner, but the wind held it up and it threw the ball down. It was that was the one play where I was, they might be in trouble. But give them credit. They closed extremely well, and this is a big win for them. I would agree with.
Yeah, and so let's talk about a little bit about the offense, because I feel like this is an opportunity for you and I to say, hey, little pat on the back, because for 2 weeks now, you and I have said on the Inside the Birds podcast that it feels like Doug is going into these games, even though he's underhanded, just trying to line it up and win. And we haven't seen some of the creativity and ingenuity that we knew Doug had in him. And then in this game, the first trick play we saw, and I texted you, was the Nelson Aguilar wing counter, right? We brought that out from 2017 playoffs. And then, as you mentioned, there was the touchdown run by Miles Sanders, which came out of the pony backfield with both running backs and Jordan Howard supplying the lead block. That was something different. The fake screen right side, turn it to the left side, hit Dallas Goedert. That was a little bit different. Boston Scott as a goal line back. You and I both said you got to figure out a way to get Boston Scott in a way that the defense wouldn't predict.
Yeah, but Geoff, I wasn't expecting that. I'll tell you what, low man wins, and he is built like a spark plug. The one negative when we talk about the run game is Miles Sanders did suffer a shoulder injury. He did tell reporters that X-rays were negative. Now, he's going to be re-examined tomorrow. I believe he's going to have an MRI just to make sure. Now, if he can't play, or if he's out for a while, it's now Jordan Howard and Boston Scott. That would mean they would be down 3 running backs. They're already down 3 D tackles today. We'll get into the defense later, but good win. That Jordan Howard trade, man, it's looking more and more good by the personnel staff. I wasn't so sure about it early on, Geoff, but he's been a bright spot for this offense. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I want to reemphasize something that we just chuckled at. Boston Scott, goal line back. Yeah, we didn't see that coming. I think your exact words were, that's not exactly what I saw coming, but that's actually my point is what we were saying is Doug is not fooling people. He's got to do things and put formations and packages on the field that the defense can say, I haven't seen that. And he did that. And so even though we didn't see it coming, and that's not what we meant about getting more Boston Scott involved, it is what we meant about showing the defense something that they hadn't seen. So the Eagles scored 31 points. It's their most points in several weeks. And it just felt like in a game, as you mentioned, with all the wind, with all the elements, they really figured out a way. And again, there's still no deep presence on this team, yet we said that shouldn't be an excuse. Just because you lose to Sean Jackson doesn't give you a total excuse to be a 15, 18-point team. There's ways to move the ball, and they found those ways.
Yeah, but it was really tough to pass. They tried a couple plays about 20, 25 yards downfield, maybe 30 yards downfield, but the wind just made it extremely difficult to complete it. Wentz played well today. Don't let the numbers fool you. 17 for 24, 172, and a touchdown. First of all, he didn't turn it over. But you know what the big story is? Only 4 penalties, Mosher. Only 4 penalties for this Eagles team. That's actually breaking news because the Eagles have been terrible with penalties this season at the most inopportune time, but they didn't shoot themselves in the foot. The one turnover was questionable with the Boston Scott turnover. It was very close. Give the special teams for Buffalo credit, but overall, it was a sufficient game for Wentz. I thought he did a good job, managed the game very well, and his running was great. Doug Peterson confirmed after the game, they had the screen covered, so Carson did something smart. He just ran. So it wasn't really. Yep. I know Darryl Johnson thought it was a design quarterback draw. Actually, was not the case.
No, it wasn't. And it was funny also to hear Carson say after the game that the wind was so bad that it reminded him of playing backyard football in North Dakota. So that should give you a pretty good idea of how gusty it was out there. We don't know wind like North Dakota wind, man. It's crazy out there. So, again, Carson, we really needed to see Carson bounce back from his worst game of the year. And I thought he played a tremendous game, made all the right decisions, didn't throw any picks, ran when the opportunity was there. That's the Carson Wentz that we've needed to see all year, and hopefully that you start to see going forward.
You know what he had? He had command today. Again, don't let the numbers fool you. He had energy and passion for the game. He put the team on his back, did a really good job, and give Mike Rowe and Doug Peterson credit for their run game design along with Jeff Stalin and Deuce Staley. They did a great. This is a coach's game today, by the way. In addition to Wentz playing well, the coaches did a great job. Now I know we'll get to the defense in a moment because. I don't pay much attention to what fans say about coaches, but I did chuckle. It's amazing. The fans love to get on Jim Schwartz. They hate the sticks defense. Yeah, there were some plays they give up, but the offensive coaches, I thought they did a really good job today because this was the rain was not the factor because the percentage of rain, Geoff, regressed significantly, but the wind factor was 10 to 15 miles like on Saturday. When I checked before the game, it was 25 to 30 miles an hour, and some people thought it was even worse than that. I think Lane Johnson said he thought it was 40 miles an hour. So, look, the coaches did a good job of adjusting today. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I want to go to the turning point. Like, we're going to get into the individual defense in a minute, some of the players, some of the schemes. But to me, this game was solidified and won by the Eagles after the ball. They're up by 11. They take a double-digit lead. Then Boston Scott fumbles, right? He fumbles the punt. Gives the ball back to the Bills deep in Eagles territory, and they come up with 4 stops. The third down stop is a Brandon Graham sack, and by the way, he's got 5 now, so he's on pace for 10. And the second part of that was the 4th down stop that Ronald Darby came up with a big stop against John Brown. I mean, those 2 plays right there to me were huge because then the Eagles took the ball back and got right back at it against the Bills, who started to tire down after that.
They did. They did a good job against Josh Allen. What did I tell you Friday, Geoff, when we were previewing the game? Josh Allen does not go through his progressions. He's a one progression reader. Then he runs. He ran the ball 8 times. Frank Orley ran it 9 times. I got to give the Eagles credit here. The coaches, defensive coaches, Geoff, I was very concerned about the Eagles' run defense coming into it. Now, I'm told that Rush was actually someone told me that Rush was told that he was going to start. Bruce Hector started. How about Bruce Hector was? I was like, what is Bruce Hector doing in there? I don't know what to tell you. That was pretty interesting. I thought Bruce Hector was in there very, very early. He's been on and off the roster for 2 years. Did a good job today. I mean, I don't know what else you could say. We'll find out the snap counts on Monday, but Bruce Hector did a nice job today.
It's funny. I was thinking last night before I went to bed about that whole defensive tackle rotation, and I thought to myself that Bruce Hector should have started. He's played in NFL games before. He has played for the Eagles. He knows their system. Like you said, he's been on the team for 2 years. I didn't see what sense it made to try to start a rookie free agent over Bruce Hector, and I think that was the plan all along. They just wanted to wait until the absolute last minute to make that move to promote him. They knew they were going to do it, but maybe how he's talking trades right now, they had no idea they were going to bring somebody in. But I thought it made more sense for Bruce Hector to be the guy that started.
Yeah, they're going to add a D tackle at some point. I just they don't have a choice, whether it's through trade or a journeyman free agent. Someone they got it. They're down in numbers here. We'll see what they do on the trade deadline. We can get to that before we get out of here. But just to close off the offense, I thought the coaches did a very good job. Alshon Jeffrey came up big with several. The one sideline catch was tremendous. He put himself out there. He's a good football player. That's we all know how good he is. He doesn't have downfield speed. The coaches know what he is. They know what he can do. They got him the football today. But one negative, and I'm not blaming Zach Ertz on this, but the coaches have to figure out a way to get him the ball. We knew that his numbers would be down this season. Zach Ertz is just not getting the ball enough. They got to figure out a way to get him the ball more. I'm glad to see Goddard scoring 2 games in a row. We were just evaluating how the coaches called plays, but Ertz had a big catch late, but he only had 2 catches. And he's been quiet this season, relatively quiet, as opposed to last season. So I want to see what the coaches can do here with getting Ertz a little bit more freed up.
See, I kind of interpreted Dallas Goedert's big game as a way to get the tight ends involved while Ertz was probably being double-teamed. We'll have to look at the tape and see. I mean, the Bills mainly play zone, which allows you to kind of drop your linebackers and get depth against that. But today they blitzed a lot, so they probably did play more man than usual. That'll be interesting. I do remember one time Ertz getting covered by Tre'Davious White, who made a breakup on the play, and he's one of the best cover corners in the league. So you know what? That's good. Let's file that to talk to the sources and check all 22 and see if that was just Carson doing a good job of going where the defense was open, or maybe the coaches need to do a better job of getting Ertz. So I like that. We'll get that to you next podcast, either Tuesday or Wednesday. I do want to get into the defense and a little bit of the rushing game, but before we do that, I want to pause to tell everybody about our friends at Anchor. All right, let's switch the gears back to offense for a little bit, because this was I've said it in the past. You have too. Whenever the Eagles under Andy Reid or now Doug seemingly get in a pinch, it seems like they will turn to the ground game, and then I think the elements help them do that too. When I say turn to it, that's how they kind of get restabilized, and then they go and open it up to the passing game again. But they do, like we talked about in 2017. You went to Kansas City, you lost. You didn't run LeGarrette Blount once. Then you came home and you ran the ball all over the Giants and then again to the Chargers. So we see this happen every once in a while. Over 200 yards rushing today. Really good usage, right? I mean, Jordan Howard is your ground and pound guy, and he closed out the game really well in the second half. And Miles Sanders gives you the splash, and they figured out a way to get that thunder and lightning combo working.
Yeah, Geoff, but here's the thing, though. The elements said you just can't throw the football. You just can't. Only a moron would start trying to throw the ball 40 times a game in this weather. You just can't do that. Mm-hmm. They knew it. They knew it in pregame warm-ups. How about Wentz wearing gloves on both hands? Does that tell you all you need to know? That? Yeah, you don't throw. You just don't throw in this weather. I wouldn't read anything into it. I mean, the coaches again did a good job. Now, as coaches always tell me, and I always laugh at this, but I get what they mean. They ran today. You know why? Because it worked. That's why they did it. They started getting a roll, and it worked. But we also have seen where they only get 3-4 yards at a clip, and they're like, we'll just throw the football. But you couldn't throw the damn ball today. You just couldn't do it. Both quarterbacks knew that going into it. Josh Allen was inaccurate today, like crazy. Eagles, you got to give Eagles credit. Getting Ronald Darby back today, he was active last week but didn't play. Getting him back today was absolutely key. And we did tell you, though, on Friday, we thought Cole Beasley could be a factor. He was. He scored. He had a couple nice plays. Sidney Jones, you saw him trail on one of them. But the fact of the matter is, their defense. Oh, by the way, I got that score right. I had it 16-13 Eagles. They gave us 13, but somehow they scored 31.
Yeah, amazingly. One of the bigger deals I thought was, and you mentioned having Darby back and Mills, and now that's I thought Mills played well against Dallas, acquitted himself well enough to make you feel a little bit better about the secondary. But the big thing about this game is, and it's probably the first time this year that none of the corners got beat over the top, right? There were a couple of 20 and 21-yard completions, but they weren't over the top of a corner. Yeah, obviously the Cole Beasley touchdown, it looked like just a blown assignment there, but you did not see there was that one play you talked about where they had an opportunity, but the ball was so underthrown. So even if they had given up one play over the top.
Jeff, the air caught that. Yeah, so I'd be careful with that. We'll preview the Bear game Friday morning, but I would tell you that the Bears are more of a spread offense. Now, they did run the ball real well in their loss today. Their awful loss, choking to the Chargers. But look, it worked. And Jordan Howard, the only thing I would say about the run game, they now know what Jordan Howard is. This is the best he's played in a while. I could tell you from everyone who's graded their tape, this is the best Jordan Howard's looked in probably 2 years. Way better than last year. He did not play well last year. Bear source told me he was not in shape. In training camp last year, he never got going, didn't play well. And the first thing that they did when they had the personnel meeting is, last year, I think it might have been in January, how are we going to move Jordan Howard? What are we going to do to get him out of here? And you saw. But their loss is the Eagles' gain. This is a credit to Drew Staley, obviously, and Jeff Stalin, and Groh and Peterson. They figured out a way to use this guy, and it's really working.
The Bills kind of remind me of a poor man's version of last year's Bears. They have a really good defense, but they don't have a Khalil Mack. They have a mobile quarterback who runs around a lot. He's got probably a better arm than Trubisky, but he's probably more inaccurate than Trubisky, Josh Allen. So I can see why they're winning games, but it doesn't seem sustainable to me.
No, the Bills. The problem with the Bills is now again the weather was bad today, but they're sort of a low octane passing game. Although John Brown. I'd have to check what the tape looks like. He might have been the guy they tried to throw deep, but the wind caught it and made it look like it was well short. That was a power throw, but the wind took it down. But the Bills really do struggle at really maximizing their passing game. They haven't done it yet with Josh Allen. Is he better than last year? Sure. But he's just not good enough yet. And he's a young quarterback who was a little bit raw when they drafted him. But getting back to the Eagles here, to finish off the offense, Eagle fans listen to this have to be very, very happy. Terrible weather. I had another friend text me as we're doing this. I'm looking at it. He goes, man, I hope to listen. I had a friend who's at the game was going to drive back, and he wants to know when we're posting the podcast. So he could download his phone on the way back. How funny is that? I love it, man.
That is
passion
good.
Fans is awesome.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Before we finish this off, let's really quickly talk about what's to come. The trade deadline is Tuesday. There were a lot of reports today, and Big V, and
you want to talk defense? You want to talk defense real quick, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, you know what? I forgot about Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. I thought that they played, and Barnett had the forced fumble. I thought the defensive line was really asserted itself today. And we talked about areas of the Bills' defensive line or offensive line that could be exposed, and they got to him.
Yeah, I thought. I'll tell you what. First quarter, not so good. Six defense. They gave up some third downs where you shake your head like, I don't understand it. That's what the fans were complaining about. I happen to see that. But I'll tell you what, though, this happens when you get a big lead. You could tee off, and they started getting to Josh Allen, and I'm surprised that they only turned it over once. I'll give them credit, though. By the end of the game, they made some plays on defense, and that's what you got to do. It's a four-quarter game. It always helps to have a lead. The defense got it done. You feel good about it. You'd ask me overall how much could you carry over? They're going to feel good about this, and now they get to go home. They haven't been home, and it seems like forever since they've been home. Remember, they had the 3 away games in a row. Now they've got 3 home games in a row, but it's the Bears, then they're bye. But overall, the defense did a good job. Wind aided. The 12th man on defense was the win. There's no question about it. But look, they're playing some young kids on defense, as we know. T.J. Edwards is having to play. You'd rather not have him play this much, but he's having to play. He's doing a good job. I'm still, to finish this off though, Geoff, I'm shocked at how good the run defense was, and it had less to do about that the Bills had to throw the ball in the second half. They did a good job against their run game. With Singletary back from his hamstring injury, I'll give them credit. The coaches, the D-line coach, Philip Daniels, and Flay Joel, the linebackers coach, they were very disciplined on defense. They did a good job today. And with their front, did a good job against the run.
Yeah, I thought Nate Gary actually played well today, too. I saw him active. He was kind of a sideline-to-sideline guy today, and I know he's come under a lot of criticism for how he's played for the last few weeks. I don't think he's been awful, but I think today he played well.
He did. He did a good job. Look, they got it done today. Look, you're always concerned about his lack of size. You know, when they play Dallas for a second time, that's going to be a problem. When they play the teams that could run, when Seattle comes into Philly, Seattle is the true run-first offense. We'll get to that in a couple weeks, but it worked today, and it helped them win. I'll tell you what, before we get to the trade deadline stuff, after everything, after all the struggles lately, they're 4-4 at the halfway point, Geoff. Hey, it's not that bad. It's actually better than last year, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. We'll see. I mean, they got. I think they're catching a break here. You know, they're getting a Bears team that's coming off that's really struggling, and then they got the bye, and we'll see what kind of injured players they get back, and also if they do anything at the trade deadline. I think both of us expect something to be done. It's a couple days away now. There were a lot of reports today. I mean, we've talked about Chris Harris. Defensive tackle is an area that they could address. I think we're going to have to be pretty active over the next 2 days trying to figure out what they do.
I would look for two players, and I'm going to give you the ones that come off the top of my head. Robbie Anderson. There's going to be the Jets have competition. The Eagles will have competition. They tried to get him last year. This is one we reported exclusively for our listeners last year on our trade deadline show that the Eagles actually made an offer for. Actually, they tried, but the Bucs shut him down, and the Jets, Mike McCagnon, the former GM, shut them down, and all teams with Robbie Anderson. But I expect. Right. If the Eagles are going to give up something of note, the only problem is the Eagles didn't know at the time what the Rams were offering for the corner Ramsey. But Geoff, you got to. Here's the thing. People will say, well, why would you trade for Robbie Anderson, who's a speed receiver, when you have Deshaun? The Eagles don't know when Deshaun's coming back. I would say outside chance for the Bear game, based on what I'm told over the last couple of days. Probably not until after the bye. And by the way, it's not going to heal. We've been telling people for 2 months, this thing's not going to heal. It could get to, it's like a 75%, 70%. And then there's setbacks, too, you could have with this. So I would, if I'm Howie Roseman, if you are, I'll put it even better. If you are running this thing, I'm getting Robbie Anderson. He's on the final year of his deal. You'll make the choice after the season. If they don't get Robbie Anderson, I don't see any receivers available. I don't want Devontae Parker. He's just inconsistent. He's been an underachiever. He could run for his size, but Chris Harris, I'm going all in on. High character kid, great story, former undrafted free agent, does everything the right way. He did a good job today against T.Y. Hilton. I watched a lot of that game. Go after those two. D-tackle wise, the kid for the former Leonard Williams. He's a decent player. He does have a little bit of pass rush. He's been inconsistent the last couple of years. To me, yes, D-tackle is a priority, but you shouldn't have to give up much for anybody at this point. The only problem is when there's competition. So to sum it up, my vote would be for Harris and Robbie Anderson, and go for it like Howie Roseman did for 2 years ago. And then, as you said, Geoff, after the bye, they should start getting some guys back. I'm a little bit surprised by Jernigan because one of my best sources felt by week 9 he'd be ready, and he's only been doing individual stuff, so I don't know. I mean, I could just tell you what people think inside the building.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be an Eagles injury if a guy wasn't out longer, about 3 or 4 weeks, than he was supposed to be, because that's pretty much how it goes around Eagles.
Right, right. No, I get that, but the guy on Jernigan, I've actually talked to 2 people. I don't know exactly what the injury is, though. I just know it's a foot injury. I don't know if it's a sprained foot, broken foot. Was it reported? I can't remember. They've had so many injuries, Geoff. I can't keep up with all this stuff. We're trying to. They're hopeful for getting LeBlanc. Sometime week 10 or 11, he needs to start practicing. So anyway, I would expect 2 players, but as I've learned, it will never be for lack of effort. Roseman went hard in on Ramsey from beginning to end. He just didn't get him. They've got competition for Anderson and Harris and other players. And by the way, there are going to be players we haven't talked about we're not aware of that they may wind up getting. So don't be surprised.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, our post-game podcast of a big Eagles win 31-13. Hope everybody's enjoyed listening. Hope everybody's enjoyed watching. So I can't wait to send this out and get some feedback from our viewers on how they feel this live produced podcast went. Again, thanks to Hunter Brody, who's produced this. You can find his own YouTube channel. That's Sports with Broads. So check him out. He's got the best reactions to Philadelphia sports. Adam, I don't know if you've ever seen his work, but when Philly, sometimes I root for Philly teams to lose because he makes these contorted, gnarled faces and he goes all crazy. But he's absolutely the epitome of a diehard Philadelphia sports fan. So there, check out Sports with Broads on YouTube. We'll listen to you. We'll hear you at 3:00 on 97.3 ESPN, 3:00 Wednesday for your spot that you do every week with me, Mike Gill, and Ryan Rothstein. Of course, you got Mays and Shander from noon to 2, Monday through Friday on 97.3 ESPN. You can download the free mobile app. Again, get all the great coverage of Philadelphia sports at Philadelphia Sports Nation. That's PHLSportsNation.com. They give you coverage of the Flyers, the Eagles, the Phillies, the Sixers, and they enhance the fan experience with their content. They are phenomenal, and we thank them always for their partnership. And we thank you, the listeners and the viewers, for listening to us here at Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. And as always, we appreciate you for flying with us inside the Birds.